right. So, hi, everybody. Oh, yeah, we hit 50. Great. My name's Jenna Schulman. Sorry for chatting your ear off just now. If this is your second seminar of the day, I'm sorry for introducing myself again, but my name is Jenna Schulman. I am an independent educational consultant, which is just a fancy title for college counselor in Northern New Jersey. And I put together these spotlight series all summer long, since a lot of my students I know have had trouble narrowing down their lists because there's not tours to be had this summer, this past spring. So it's great to be in on all of these and learn about the schools of interest. And if you're a class of 2021 student, you're applying, this fall, class of 2022 or 23, you still have some time, but it's always good to learn about Northeastern. I was at the NACAC conference in Boston, so I've seen Northeastern. I guess that was 2 years ago. I did 9 colleges in 3 days in Boston. So I like to say that because it just shows you all the colleges that are in Boston, making it a great city, but also in a way a great college town. I feel like even though I did 9, I only hit like a third of the colleges that were there, and there were so many more to see. But I did see Northeastern. It was awesome. Boston's awesome, unless you're a Yankees fan. Just kidding. So it's a great place, lots to do. But yeah, so I'll let Greg take it away. I know he has a student on, so thanks, Claire, for being with us here. And I'm monitoring the Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, please chat them and we can get to them at the end. So.
That's phenomenal. Jenna, thank you so much for the introduction. It's funny that you say you were in Boston for the NACAC and got to see Northeastern and saw like 9 other schools. One of the slides that we'll talk about is Boston being truly like a college town, which is someone that grew up in Massachusetts and has lived in Massachusetts almost their entire life. I really didn't appreciate and didn't realize until I started working at Northeastern. So your math was almost perfect. There are just over 30 different colleges and universities in the Boston city limits. So when you said you saw about a third, you were pretty much spot on. So well done. Jenna, I'm going to ask if I can just share my screen.
Yeah, I just gave you permission.
Perfect. Give me 1 second, and I'm sure all of the participants are probably pretty used to hearing. Just please be flexible with us as we work through any of our technological glitches. But this is a great opportunity for me to introduce the Northeastern student that I have presenting with me today. An absolute all-star, a student that I get to present with pretty frequently, Claire Pettit. So Claire, I'll let you introduce yourself now.
Hi everyone, as Greg said, my name is Claire, and I'm a 5th year / recent graduate, still in that denial phase. I just wrapped up my degree this May. I double majored in international affairs and communication studies and minored in photography at Northeastern. I was there for 5 years, and I've done a couple of different experiences, clubs, student organizations, that kind of thing. So I'm really excited to just talk to you a little bit about what my experience was like and answer any questions that you might have about the student experience.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Claire. And a special shout out to Claire because the first student I had asked to help me with this presentation had to kind of drop off last second. So Claire is the epitome of a team player, stepped up and was more than willing to help out with us. So thank you so much again, Claire. First of all, I'm really excited to be able to talk about Northeastern University with all of you out there viewing. I want to acknowledge the fact that this is a really tough time to be going through the college application process. So no question, comment, concern is a bad one. Every school is going through an evolution of how to properly handle COVID-19 and everything that's come along with that. So my hope is that this presentation for the next 45 minutes to an hour is as engaging and as exciting as possible. I was thrilled when I saw Jenna's introduction email about keeping this a little less formal and a little bit more fun. I think both me and Claire can say that we've done enough formal presentations that keeping it a little bit more low-key and maybe going off the script that we usually give will be a great change of pace. So please, if you have any questions, again, put them in the chat. I know that Jenna is monitoring it. Jenna, if you want to interrupt us at any point and ask those questions, that'd be great. So my strategy, my plan was we'll do about a 30-minute presentation. Again, interject questions whenever they come up. But at the end of that, we can definitely leave about 20 minutes for really solid Q&A. With that, this is just a slide that shows the contact information for both me and Claire. One of the recommendations that I'll give for any junior out there that is going into their senior year and interested in Northeastern is send a quick email, just introduce yourself. As the assistant director in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions and someone that reads applications for much of New Jersey, it'd be great to hear from you, great to get the introduction, and great just to be able to know that Northeastern's on your radar. So if you want to send a quick introduction email, I can put you on our email list so you can start getting updates about the specific undergraduate college you might be interested in, and we can just go from there. So if you want to take a quick screenshot or just write down that information, I'll give you 1 second. Moving on, I want to take a second to acknowledge the university's response to the Black Lives Matter movement. We are working as an educational community to make a real positive impact and to support the Northeastern students and faculty members of color. This past Monday, offices and classrooms were closed as we took time to reflect, educate, and engage in thoughtful dialogue. We held a community vigil for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the many other lives lost, and had a really passionate alumni panel discussion. We look forward to being leaders in the fight to end racism, and the 2 images and the corresponding articles that are on the screen in front of you right now can be found at the Northeastern homepage. There's a lot of information just about the university's response and things that we're actively doing as a university. So here's kind of the agenda for what the presentation is going to look like. Something you're going to hear over and over again for the next half an hour is this idea of experiential learning. So we're going to talk about what that looks like at Northeastern. The next thing we're going to talk about and really focus on, because I know a lot of you are interested in hearing about the student life aspect, is community and what it means to be part of Husky Nation. We'll do a very quick admissions and financial aid portion, and then obviously open it up for Q&A. So just quickly, I wanted to talk about what makes Northeastern special, what gives us and students at Northeastern advantage, and it's really our focus on real-world education and cooperative education. Northeastern focuses on setting students up for success, not only during their time in college, but also moving forward and looking forward to their professional life. These advantages have been recognized by the over 64,000 applications we've received from high school seniors over the last 2 admission cycles. Again, experiential learning, that phrase is just going to be constantly popping up. But what is experiential learning? Essentially, it's students taking what they learn in the classroom and applying it to the real world, right? It's this idea of project-based learning that I think a lot of us maybe hear about and get talked to about, but don't necessarily get to experience. At Northeastern, we're all about giving students hands-on experience and giving them opportunities to take what they learn in the classroom and bring it out into the professional environment. At Northeastern, we acknowledge that no 2 students are exactly the same, and therefore no 2 students are going to have the same path. Typically on this slide, I talk a lot about just all the different educational opportunities and academic flexibility. I'm going to kind of pare it down to the things that I think are really important. The first being that we have 7 different undergraduate colleges at Northeastern, and then we have an 8th Explore program, which is our undeclared track. Another important thing to note is the fact that we have over 220 different majors, as well as this idea, or not idea, this full-blown curriculum around combined majors. So we have over 130 combined majors. Essentially, it's when students take 2 different majors, blend them together. They take 75% of each of the majors, blend them together, and create a really unique and personalized major. They vary from really traditional pairings like business administration with economics to more unique pairings like physics with music. But again, it's about giving you, the student, an individualized path and something unique when you graduate from college. Something that's really important for charting your own path is the fact that students can complete either a 4 or 5 year program at Northeastern based on how many co-ops they complete. So if you want to complete 2 co-ops while you're at Northeastern, which we'll talk about more, this idea of co-ops, you'll graduate in 4 years. If you want to take advantage of a 3rd co-op, you'll graduate in 5. Claire, I've done a lot of talking really quickly. So I'm hoping that maybe you can talk a little bit about just your path, your academic path at Northeastern, and how you took advantage of the academic flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. I think that when I tell a lot of people that I'm a double major with a minor, they ask me, did I know that coming into Northeastern? And the answer is absolutely not. I had really no idea what I wanted to study, other than the fact that I didn't like math and science when I was coming in as a first-year student. So I started at Northeastern as an international affairs major, really liked those classes, really enjoyed it, but I kind of got the inkling that I wanted to add on something else, but I wasn't really sure what. So my academic advisor sat down with me over the course of a semester, and we had some meetings to talk about my options. So whether I wanted to do a combined major or a double major and what that would mean, what the difference was. We sat down and really looked at my schedule really deeply and found out that I did have enough space to take on that double major, which isn't the right choice for a lot of people, but for me, I think that it was a way that I wanted to push myself to take the full course load for both of my majors, international affairs and communication studies, and to do both of them. So we figured that was my track, and then a semester later, I just got that itch again, so I wanted to add on a photography minor as well, which is what I ended up with. So over the course of my first 2.5 years, I added on these additional elements to my original major to really end up with a double major and a minor combination that was perfect for me. And I think that students really enjoy doing that, whether it be through a combined major, a double major, a major, and a minor. You're able to take these different puzzle pieces that exist in the different programs and put them together so that you're really passionate about what you're studying and you can really customize your path, as it says.
Great. Thank you so much, Claire. And I know a question that you get a lot is, what is the difference between the combined major where you're blending together those 2 majors and a double major? And essentially for the double major, just like you pointed out, you are completing all of the coursework for both of those majors and you're graduating with 2 different degrees. For combined major, it's 75% of the 2 different majors, blending them together with a predetermined track that's made up by your academic advisor, graduating with that 1 unique degree and possibly a little bit short of a time frame. So it's all about figuring out what's right with you, and really having open dialogue with your academic advisor.
Greg, we do have 2 questions about that. Would
Sure.
you say there is a push to double major?
Claire, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say definitely not a push double major. It is difficult in the sense that you are doing double the work. So for a lot of students, it might not be possible if you realize that you have a second passion a little bit later on in your college career. So I think that's where the combined major really comes in. That's why they're so popular in my experience, is that they allow students to have the double discipline, but without the full double major. So they're kind of the best of both worlds in that sense.
Definitely. And I think academic advisors are really cognizant of the fact that Northeastern has students complete co-op. So they're thinking about how long students are going to be on campus. So if anything, some academic advisors might say, let's re-examine what your course work is going to look like, in addition to what your co-op trajectory is going to look like, to make sure that you're not going to be spending multiple more years on campus than you originally planned.
And does the nursing program allow for double or combined majors?
So when you're a nursing major, you do declare a minor. So that's part of their set curriculum. But typically students who are in the nursing program are just standard nursing majors, and then they have a minor in another field, like business administration, for example.
Awesome. If you declare a major when you apply, can you switch?
Absolutely. Yeah. So something we definitely focus on is academic flexibility. So when you apply to Northeastern, you're applying to all 7 of our undergraduate colleges. So if you get accepted, you're accepted into all 7. So we have a full function group that is focused on making sure that students that want to change their major are able to. So we have a lot of students that will change their major even before stepping foot on campus.
This isn't a question, but I see one of my students, I won't call her out, is on here. And yesterday she asked me, I don't understand the colleges within a university. So can you explain that a little bit? And I felt like I explained it and I was like rambling and I was like, this is not making sense.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out. No, I'm just kidding. It's complicated, right? Because you have, how I always explain it is kind of like this umbrella. So you have Northeastern University, which is this enormous umbrella. And then you have 7 different colleges at 8th program that are all standing underneath the umbrella. So they're all getting funding from the university, but they're all also operating on their own a little bit and have different enrollment goals, and have just kind of operate in their own space. Now, obviously, what's unique about Northeastern is with the double majors and the combined majors, you have an opportunity to be working between multiple of the different colleges. So that's kind of like the visual aspect of it, but really comes down to funding, enrollment goals. We have a standard information session that we give as an admissions office. And then each of the different colleges actually gives their own information session as well, where they dig deeper into their curriculum, their professional trajectory, the kind of support that students get. So again, it's that kind of overarching university goal, and then each of the different colleges have their own goals as well.
Okay.
And I just add from the student perspective, it really doesn't play into our lives that much because we are one university. So I would never say, oh, I'm a CAMD student, College of Arts, Media and Design, like I'm a Northeastern University student. And especially as Greg said, with double majoring, I'm actually in 2 different colleges. I'd compare it to like your departments in your high school, like the English department like has meetings and maybe has their own budget, but like you take classes in all the departments.
That's
I
a great
like that.
comparison. Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that. Are there capped majors for admission?
What do you mean by capped majors? Like a certain amount that get
That's
enrolled?
just what someone asked.
Yeah, so I think usually when we get that question, students are looking for like admit rates for the different colleges, and some are thinking like, is it really tough to get into one college versus another one? And again, when we look at a student's application, we're looking at them from a university standpoint, not necessarily just from an individual undergraduate college standpoint. Each undergraduate college does have its own strengths and weaknesses. So for instance, we have a Corey College of Computer Science. Typically, the testing for the Corey College of Computer Science is off the charts, because it's students that are very much, just in terms of usually kind of like their personality makeup, they fall into a group that tests really well, but maybe their GPA is a little bit lower, where you have the Bouvet College of Health Sciences, where their testing is sometimes a little bit lower, but their GPAs are off the charts because that's where they really shine. So we'll get into how we evaluate applications and the test optional approach that Northeastern's trying for this next year. But overall, in terms of caps, each college does have different sizes. There's information about the different sizes of other colleges on our website.
I'll let you keep going because these other questions aren't related to majors. So
Great, awesome. Yeah, we cover a lot of information in this, but if you feel like anything's pertinent to the slide, please feel free to ask.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's great. So at Northeastern, much like we want you to have a lot of flexibility within your academic experience, we also want to give you an opportunity to get to know professors that you're going to work with. So even though we are a medium-sized university with just over 18,000 undergraduate students, we're able to have a student-to-faculty ratio of 14-1. My one caveat with that statistic is typically for first-year students, when they're going through NU Path, which is our core academic platform, sometimes their courses are a little bit bigger. They're not going to be 300 or 500 students large in auditorium, but anywhere maybe between like 50 to 75 students. But as you dig deeper into your area of focus, into your concentration, that's where you're going to develop those relationships with your professors. And that's where the deep connections are really going to be formed. And Claire, I know you have a lot of examples and just some great professors you've worked with, so I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, I always like to highlight just how interdisciplinary our core curriculum is. And I like to say it's so flexible that it almost blends in to the point where it disappears, because I've never really felt like I was taking a class just because it was on the core curriculum. Rather, I was taking classes that would give me those competencies, but also allow me to pursue my passions. And I think on that note, all the classes I've taken have been really enjoyable because the faculty who teach those classes are passionate about their subject. So they bring in their own expertise, whether it be industry expertise or academic expertise, into the classroom. So you feel as a student that you're really learning from someone who is an expert in that field. I always like to highlight that industry expertise. And I talk about my photography professor, Tony. He was one of those cool people who said, call me by my first name, so I call him Tony. He every week would come into our photography class, and he would not pull up a PowerPoint or any lecture information or anything like that. He would just plug in his laptop and show us the photo shoots that he had done that week as a freelance photographer. So rather than going through a textbook, he would just parse through the photos, and we would stop and ask questions like, why did you put that light there? Or why did you have the model positioned that way? So we really got to hear from him, and to have that Q&A with him every single week was really amazing for me to not only get that knowledge, but then to also ask him other questions like, what was your contract like? Or did these people pay you on time afterwards? So I got to know not only how photography functions as a subject, but also as a career.
And Claire, I'm so glad that you bring that up, bringing that professional aspect of it. Because yes, our professors are amazing teachers and amazing mentors, but they are also masters of their craft. And what I mean by saying that is they're out there in working in the field that they're teaching, right? So they're not only great connections in the classroom, but they're really a connection for students as they enter into that professional realm. So thank you so much for bringing that up. The other thing that I want to bring up on this slide is the fact that Northeastern does have an honors college. It's dedicated to the top 10 to 15% of an applicant pool on any given year. I don't know if we have any students from the Ranney School, but I gave a presentation for them, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and the school counselor I was presenting with said that the young woman in the black long sleeve shirt is a Ranney School graduate. So there's some Ranney School pride hopefully out there. We'll move on. So as an admissions office at Northeastern, we know that students are applying to more schools today than ever before. So it's really important for you as families to understand what makes different colleges and universities different. It's really important for us at Northeastern to know what makes us unique. And once again, here comes this idea of experiential learning. And we truly believe our focus on co-op, global service, and research is something that differentiates us. So experiential learning was something that was put in practice right from the foundation of the university over 100 years ago, and has blossomed into these 4 pillars that are shown in front of you. And really, we're going to take a little bit of time to dig deeper onto our 4 pillars of experiential learning, starting out with our signature program, which is co-op. If you haven't heard of co-op, it's really kind of what defines Northeastern in a lot of ways. It makes up, to me, it makes up our student community because there's very much a professional vibe on campus, and students really look forward to the opportunity to start in the co-op process. Basically, it's a 4 to 6 month entry-level position where students go and they work in a professional setting, in a professional job in their field of interest. But before students even go out on co-op, they complete a co-op prep class. In addition, they have a co-op advisor to help them navigate the co-op experience. To me, there's 2 main benefits of co-op. The first one is it gives students a professional foundation. So when you go out on that first actual interview, you can say, hey, these are things that I accomplished during my co-op. And these are things I'm really proud of in terms of a professional sense, not just as a student, not just from the scope of a student, but from the scope of a professional. The other benefit is it gives students direction, right? So for one cohort of students, they'll come back and they'll say, wow, that co-op was absolutely incredible. I can't wait to continue on this professional track and to maybe complete a second co-op in this field. For another group of students, they'll come back to campus and they'll say, whoa, that's not exactly what I expected. I need to maybe reevaluate the professional trajectory I'm on, the courses I'm taking, maybe even the undergraduate college I'm in. And again, that's really where the co-op advisor and academic advisor play such a crucial part. But there's ever a time not to know what you want to do professionally. It's definitely in college and at a university that is so academically flexible. Just a couple of other important notes to make with co-op is that about 80% of our co-ops are paid. So there's that added buy-in for getting some compensation. And then when you're out on co-op, you are considered a full-time employee. That means you're not taking classes. It also means you're not paying tuition, right? Because you are out there actually working. Claire, I know you've had an opportunity to complete 3 co-ops at Northeastern. Can you talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely a unique thing that Northeastern offers in our co-op program, that you get to, for 6 months at a time, kind of press pause on being a college student and get to try out a professional job for 6 months full time. The earliest you can do this is the spring of your sophomore year. So it's not something you start when you just started college. You have a couple of semesters to prepare. And the semester before your first co-op, every student is required to take a co-op prep course, which is a once a week time where students from a certain major will meet with their co-op advisor, who will teach them things like how to write a resume, a cover letter, how to work on interview skills. And then your co-op advisor will help you navigate through our NU Careers database of all of our co-op listings. So my co-op advisor sat down with me and we used like filters to look through positions that I might be interested in for my first co-op in the international affairs and communications realm. I accepted my first co-op in the spring of my sophomore year. So from January through June, I was working full-time at Boston by Foot, which is a local nonprofit in Boston that offers historical walking tours of the city. For them, I was doing communications and customer service work. So my biggest project was rewriting a lot of the content that was on our website. So I got to work on my writing skills, learn a little bit about web development, basics, just the basics, and also do some customer service work. And it was a really great way for me to kind of dip my toe into the professional world and to see what I might want to do full time. I think that co-op really taught me that maybe 3 people in the same office day in and day out wasn't quite the size of the environment I was looking for the rest of my life. So a year later, after I'd taken another semester of classes, I had again applied for my second co-op. This time I was looking for different opportunities. So I worked at the Charles Stark Draper Laboratory in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They're a really large research and development firm. So I was working with engineers and scientists, so people completely different from, me and our educational backgrounds. And I was working on event planning and internal communications over there. So it's a great way for me to take my skills, but this time apply them to a different industry. Around this time, I realized that I wanted to be on Northeastern's 5-year 3 co-op track, which means that I interspersed 3 6-month co-ops throughout my 8 academic semesters to get my degree. So I ended up staying at Northeastern for 5 years to fit in that third co-op. So I got to work at New Balance in the spring of my 4th year, which was my final co-op. I like to call that one my perfect fit because it took what I liked from my first and my second jobs and really put them together in a really great working environment and doing a job that I really loved over there. So over the course of the 3 co-ops that I did over my second, third, and 4th year, I really gained not only the professional development skills, the items on my resume, but also a good sense of what I'm looking for in a full-time position post-graduation. So now I'm in a much better position than I think I was 5 years ago to look critically at job applications and to think what I will and won't like in the professional field.
We have some questions about co-ops.
Sure.
As I'm sure you can imagine. How does housing work with co-ops all around the city?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention, I always say this and I forgot, my 3 co-ops were all in Boston. So I stayed on campus. I didn't move out of my residence hall any of those 3 years. I would wake up in the morning, take public transportation to work, and then come home in the evenings. I was still involved in clubs and organizations and a student leader on campus. So I still jumped back into that college life from pretty much 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. So it was a great time to hang out with friends, get dinner, explore the city because I wasn't in classes. I didn't have homework. So especially with my other friends who were also on co-op, it was a really fun time for us to have our evenings completely free. But then if you do leave Boston for co-op, you will be responsible for finding your own housing, but we have a lot of places that can help you do that. So a lot of students will connect with the student who had the co-op before them, and they'll ask like, hey, where are you living right now? I'm co-oping in Chicago. What's a good area to live in? And Northeastern also has a co-op connections office that will help you look for leases, find a good apartment to live in for those 6 months so you have that support.
Okay. This is a good question. How does Northeastern maintain a sense of community while students participate in a co-op?
Yeah, I think like I kind of said, if you are in Boston, it's really easy to maintain that sense of community because you're still on campus or, in your off-campus apartment. So your weekends and evenings being completely free is a really great time to really double down on, your social life or whatever you're involved in. And if you're outside of Boston, if you're in the US, you probably won't be the only student on co-op in any major city. So you'll have, other students in New York or LA or Chicago. So you have that little Northeastern cohort with you. And if you're really somewhere far flung, we have co-ops as far as Antarctica at the Palmer Research Station. I think it's a great time to teach you much like we are now, virtual communication and how to maintain those friendships when you can't physically be together. So really after, this year, we're all going to be pros at that. So not much to worry about.
And I want to say that I think it's really important to hear from Claire because she's lived the co-op experience. She's lived what it's like being part of the Northeastern community from an outsider, from someone that's professionally working at Northeastern. The students that typically seem like the best fit for Northeastern, they really embrace this idea of being in kind of like a more professional environment. So yes, you have that support system, you have that community at Northeastern, but at the same time, they're looking forward to being connected with other communities and to maybe connect with people in a professional environment. So for the right student, not only are you getting that Northeastern University community, but you're getting that added bonus of a co-op community as well.
Okay. What happens to your dorm room if you were on a co-op away from Boston? Do you give it up?
Yes, someone else will live there for that semester. So you'll be away, you won't be paying for housing if you're not living there.
Okay. And I don't think you have to pay for the tuition when you're not living there, right?
Correct.
You end up like making money. I remember hearing that like a lot of people get paid a lot of money. So during co-op, unlike when I interned and didn't get paid anything. So
that is a huge benefit.
How many co-ops are required? Do only students doing 3 co-ops stay 5 years? Are the co-ops always first or second semester?
Great question. I'll answer part of it, Claire, and then I'll let you jump in.
Sure.
So first of all, co-ops are not necessarily required. We require that students complete at least one of the 4 pillars that you see on the screen. Quite honestly, though, I would say about 96, maybe 97% of students at Northeastern complete a co-op. So you would be in the minority if you didn't complete one, just because it's such a well-established program and it gives students such a leg up when they get to graduation, look for that first job. But in terms of when students can start their first co-op, they can start it their second semester, second year. That's typically one time that a student will complete their first one, or first semester of their third year. Really, their track and their time at Northeastern is very much going to be dependent on how willing they are to complete not only a full load of courses during both fall and spring semester, but also possibly taking courses during summer 1 or summer 2 semesters. So it is possible that you complete 2 co-ops. It may have to be there for 5 years, but traditionally, if you work with your academic advisor and co-op advisor, if you say that your desired time to graduation is 4 years, they will give you an academic path and an academic curriculum that will allow you to do exactly that.
Okay. This is a good question. What happened to students on co-op during the pandemic?
I think a lot of things happened. I know a lot of my friends were really unsure what was going on, especially in the early days. Just speaking from what I've heard from people who are currently on co-op, a lot of them have gone remote. So they're working from home, whether they're in Boston or not, with the exception of those who are in the medical field who are really important right now. So I think even for the question about the nursing program, students who are on co-op right now in hospitals are getting a really valuable experience living that. So, but most of us are remote, working from home.
Well, that's
oh, sorry. No, that's okay.
I was going to say it segues into another question, but I'll let you talk and then I'll ask the next question.
All I was going to add is that some of our co-ops have been canceled because for whatever reason, employers cannot have the students with them at this time. But we're excited to say that co-ops are starting back up for summer 2. So for students that were supposed to start their co-op during summer 2, all things are go right now in Boston, and it looks like almost all of our co-ops will be taking place then.
Okay. Someone asked what kinds of co-ops are available to pre-med students.
Yeah, just speaking again from my friends who are pre-med, a lot of them want to get different experiences, so some clinical and some research. So Boston has a ton of hospitals right in walking distance of campus, so it's pretty typical to see a pre-med student do some sort of co-op in a hospital, whether that be as a scribe or maybe as a medical assistant or something like that. And then you can also get research positions. So one of my friends worked as a technician at a sleep clinic. So he was working on studies inputting the data from patients who were participating in sleep trials.
Awesome. All right. I think we should move on from I think those are the only questions that we have. So I feel like that was very comprehensive and what makes
Perfect.
Eastern special, you know?
Yeah, definitely. If more questions come up, definitely feel free to put them in the Q&A. I know, and Claire knows that this is a really important program and a really important part of your Northeastern experience. But segueing into the second pillar of experiential learning, global, much like we want to have all of our students get a very professional experience while on campus, we also want students to have a global mindset and to be able to take part in, take advantage of global opportunities. And that trickles down really right from our president. President Yoon strongly believes in students getting international opportunities during their undergraduate time. So much so that for our Northeastern 2025 initiative, his initial plan was to have and try to have it so all undergraduate students complete at least one global experience during their time at Northeastern. There's some logistics that still need to be figured out for that, and some academic deans that still are working with him on that initiative. But that kind of gives you just a little bit of insight into the direction of Northeastern's strategy. For Northeastern students, there's 4 ways for them to take advantage of the global pillar. The first being a traditional study abroad program, either a 6 or 12-month travel abroad. The second being an international co-op, which is the co-op experience just somewhere else in the world, which is great. I know Claire mentioned students completing co-ops even down in Antarctica at a research base, which is really cool. Not for me. I can barely handle the winters up here in Boston, but understand that that might be appealing to some people. The third is NUN, which is an admissions decision. And then the fourth, and probably most unique, is Dialogues of Civilization. It's a 4 to 6 week opportunity where students travel somewhere else in the world with a faculty member from Northeastern, take part in a very intentional, but also a very rewarding international experience. And the great part of the Dialogues of Civilization is it can be either directly tied to your academic area of focus, or it can be just something that you're very interested in. So it happens either over summer 1 or summer 2, and it earns students 8 academic credits. So it's one of our more popular global opportunities. And Claire, as an international student, I know you can speak to just the global mindset at Northeastern.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's so many different ways and places that you can go abroad. It almost seems like we're spoiled for choice. But Greg really hit the nail on the head with the dialogues and how popular they are. I think it's definitely part of Northeastern culture to try to go on at least one dialogue during your time, because they're only 4 to 6 weeks. They fit in half of a summer semester. So you can go with other Northeastern students and have this great study abroad experience, but then come back and start a co-op or have the rest of the summer off. So it's a really great balance. For me, I was looking for a global opportunity after my freshman year. So I did a summer semester abroad. So I was in London, England for that summer semester, taking classes with a study abroad program called Kappa. And they had us studying with professors from British institutions, which was great for me as an international affairs major, because I wanted to hear from people who lived and worked in the area that I was studying. So it was great for me to get to study with them, have that great experience living in London, was there for one summer, then came back to Boston for the fall. So really highlight of my Northeastern career, and something that I think a lot of students really benefit from and are looking to do.
Great, thank you so much, Claire. Jenna, are there any questions about global opportunities?
Yeah, someone asked, if we study abroad, do we have to speak the language of the country, or do they offer classes in our native language? Also, what kind of classes are there for foreign languages?
So most of the study abroad partner schools that we have do teach in English, although it's not all of them. So it depends on what you're looking for. You can definitely do your research as you're deciding between your options. And then in terms of foreign languages at Northeastern, we have tons of different options. Your typical French, Spanish, even Latin classes can be offered. So you have a variety of choices if you want to take or learn a second language or third language.
And someone asked about NUN. I know the answer to this question.
Ooh.
How does admissions choose students to admit to NUN?
I'm sorry, you cut out just for a second. Did you say
How does admissions choose students to admit to NUN?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, when we're looking for students that are going to NUN, we're looking for students that already have shown they have a global mindset and have shown that they're interested possibly in studying abroad. There's also no financial aid that's offered with NUN, so finances do play somewhat of a role when picking students for NUN, and making sure that they're going to be able to afford the experience.
And you mark that off in the Common App when you apply, right?
Yeah, so you can mark if you're interested in NUN, I think there's 3 different options. It's like, yes, I'm definitely interested, maybe, or no.
Yeah.
I do wanna note that sometimes students will note they're not interested in NUN, and then they receive that as an admissions decision. Kind of our strategy as an office is, obviously we want to be able to give as many positive decisions as possible. So for NUN, we view it as, even though you may have marked that no, you don't want to come to Northeastern, if that's the best pathway for you, if that's the best program for you, then that's what we're going to kind of funnel you into.
Okay, great. I think we can move on to service.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to make sure, Claire, I think we'll go quickly through these next 2, just so we can get into the student life and you get an opportunity to talk about all the different organizations you're part of.
For sure.
But for service, it plays a really big part at Northeastern. As a university that was founded in 1898, we have grown and expanded a lot, and so too have the neighborhoods around us and just the community around us. So we want Northeastern students to be positive impacts on the local Boston community. We offer over 50 different service learning classes, which are Socratic seminar style class, where students go in, they learn different skills that they can then take to help nonprofit organizations, to help hospitals, schools. It's really an opportunity for our students to go out and connect with the local community. And then for research, we're a tier 1 research institution. So students can start conducting research as soon as they step foot on campus in their first year. So we have top level federal funding for our research programs. Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good. We have some admissions questions. I don't know if you were going to do the social aspects and then admissions, or just avoid admissions altogether.
Yeah, why don't we? No, we can tackle the admissions questions right at the end.
Okay, yeah,
so
that's
we'll go through the student life for about the next 10 minutes, and then even if we run over just a little bit of
yeah, no, that's fine. I know people get a little antsy after an hour, but I'm happy to go over a little bit.
Sure, awesome. So really for us at Northeastern, we strongly believe that yes, academics play a huge part of your college experience, but so does the community that surrounds you. And we want Northeastern to feel like a second home. We want you to feel like you can voice your opinions, that you can take part in different clubs and organizations and really become a full, well-rounded professional. So not just in the classroom, but through clubs and organizations and the community. And to start, we want to talk about just the student body. So we're really proud at Northeastern that we're able to say that we have over 122 different countries represented in our student body. So they represent a wide range of socioeconomic, geological, and ideological backgrounds. At the same time, we are a predominantly white institution. So it's something that, again, we're taking very seriously as an admissions office to make sure that we're doing different recruiting efforts and that we're identifying different students to make sure that we bring them in to promote a truly diverse learning environment. One of the ways that we welcome students to campus is through our 10 different identity-based cultural centers. If you've ever been to the Northeastern Visitor Center, right next to that is the John D. O'Brien African American Institute. We have 9 other cultural centers around our campus in Boston. For life on campus, we have over 40 different co-ed residence halls for students to choose from. My favorite thing about Northeastern is, yes, we are a school that's in the heart of Boston, this international hub of a city, but at the same time, we have a beautiful 73-acre campus with green spaces, and it still has that true college vibe while being in an urban setting. So I think that's just such a kind of unique and cool part of Northeastern. In terms of living at Northeastern, all students are required to live on campus for their first 2 years. Housing is guaranteed for 4 years. Students live in what we call living learning communities, otherwise known as LLCs. They're broken down by either your area of study or your area of interest. So for instance, we have College of Science, College of Engineering, all the different colleges, LLCs, but we also have things like healthy living LLCs, exploring Boston LLCs, music LLCs, sport LLCs. Basically, the whole idea of offering this is to make sure that within your first year, you have a support system, a net, right? Where you're surrounded by students that have a similar interest to you, and it gives you just some natural connections. In terms of dining, I'm an Italian, I love to eat, so I'm eating on campus quite a lot. We have a number of different buffet style dining halls. But if you don't have an opportunity to sit down and really take advantage of all the different types of food offered, we also have food fast options in our Curry Student Center. And then we have a plethora of options up and down Huntington Ave, and then a 5-minute walk kind of like into Newbury Street in that area of just great restaurants to choose from. So nobody's going hungry. There's a lot of food and for every different kind of dietary restriction. Exploring your passions. Claire, I definitely am going to lean on you to talk about your experience. I'll just start by talking about the organizations that we offer at Northeastern. We have over 500 student clubs and organizations. Basically, if you're taking part in something at your high school right now, there's a very, very, very good chance we offer it already at Northeastern. At the same time, the last year when we were giving this presentation, that number was at 400 plus. So you can see there's already been a substantial jump in the number of clubs and organizations that have been founded on campus. When you get to the Northeastern community, one of the things I really hope you appreciate is the amount of art and culture on campus. Again, this is a direct initiative from our president, President Yoon, who wanted to bring more vibrancy and more life to our campus. So we have a number of students and professional artists come to campus to create murals. Finally, I'm someone that absolutely loves sports. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I hope people out there don't hold it against me, but I'm also a Miami Dolphins fan, so I can kind of relate to all you Jets and Giants fans that have had a tough last couple of years. But we welcome all different types of sports fans at Northeastern. We have 18 different Division I athletic teams. I would say men's and women's ice hockey and men's and women's basketball are probably our most well-known and prominent. For men's and women's ice hockey, they compete in what's called the Beanpot Championship. For the Beanpot Championship, it happens over at the Garden where the Celtics and Bruins play. They compete against 3 other Boston-based schools, Harvard, BC, BU. We're proud to say that both our men's and women's team won the Beanpot Championship this year. And it was the first time in 33 years that both the men's and women's team from the same school won the Beanpot. So a real sense of school spirit. If Division I sports isn't quite your speed, we have over 70 different club and intramural sports to choose from. So just a really great different community to get engaged with. Claire, I'll let you talk about some of your different organizations that you're a member of and leader of. And maybe if you could also talk about the fact that you were recently named to the Huntington 100 and what that means.
Greg, you have to stop inflating my ego. It's getting bad. All right, so just to give you a quick rundown of clubs and organizations and things that I've taken part in. If you can't tell by now, I was a tour guide for 5 years. That was my main student organization throughout all of my years. That's where I made a lot of friends at Northeastern. But a lot of students, I think, no matter what they're studying, they're involved in a lot of different things because we all have a lot of interests, so you can really explore those in different ways. So I was also involved in a community service group that volunteered at a local elementary school once a week. I did that for about 2 years. I've also been a member of New Stage Musical Theater Company. I'm a total theater nerd, so I was part of our student organization that puts on performances every semester. I've also been a resident assistant, so I was living in our first year residence halls, working with those LLCs like Greg mentioned. And then finally, I was on an intramural volleyball team with a couple of my friends this past year. We were absolutely terrible. I don't think we ever won a single game, but it was really just a great way to, get some exercise, but also to have some fun. So you can really try out different things if you want to try a new club every single year or pick one and really become, progress through it and become a leader, get on their executive board, get that leadership experience as well. As Greg mentioned, I've been involved in a couple of clubs on campus, and I really found, different communities to be part of in that sense. The Huntington 100 is a list of 100 students every year that are selected to receive this honor of being part of the Huntington 100, which means that we're being recognized for student leadership. So we have a ceremony every year where 100 students join this group, and we get recognized for things like being active in community service, or maybe, doing a lot of work on our co-op, or maybe, we've been working in residence halls like I had been. So it's a great way to see how other students at Northeastern are doing incredible things. I think every time I read the news at Northeastern, weekly edition, I'm reading about a new student who has done incredible things on campus or off campus or founded their own club. So if you have like a passion or an idea, or you're really excited about something and you want to make it happen, I think you'll fit in really well at Northeastern, because we're kind of overachievers and go-getters, and maybe we should try and pare down our schedules, but with so much to do, it's really easy to get involved.
Great. Maybe have some questions about that. Speaking of sports, can you describe the pep band or marching band and that experience?
Yes, I'm a big fan of our pep band, and so much so that I actually listen to them on like YouTube and Spotify. The pep band really, I think, is one of the most important clubs on campus, because they're at every single D1 hockey, basketball, and volleyball game. So it's really fun to hear them really pump up the crowd and to perform at not only our home games, but the Beanpot, like Greg said, at TD Garden. I have never played an instrument, so I haven't been in the pep band, but it's really cool to see, when we score a goal, the pep band goes crazy. Our unofficial model is our unofficial song is Stacy's Mom, for reasons I don't know before my time, but it's when they play that song and the entire crowd goes wild, it's a really cool environment.
Yeah.
That makes me feel old that you said it's before your time. Does Northeastern offer ROTC?
Yes. We do.
Okay.
I don't know much about it. I'm not in it, but we do.
I know it's a very specific question. I'm sure it's very searchable on Google.
Yeah, and we do have an admission officer in the office that graduated from Northeastern, went through the ROTC process. Her name's Shelby Phelan. I would hate to have someone send a direct email right to her. Maybe send an email to me, and I can always direct them to her if they're really interested in ROTC and looking for like different contacts.
Okay, great. I think we have a few admissions questions too, so I don't know
Great.
if that's the next slide, but I'll let you move from that.
We'll just quickly talk about Boston and the fact that, like I said right at the intro, it truly is a college town with over 30 different colleges and universities, over 250,000 university and college-age students. So it's a great way to expand not only your personal network, but also your professional network. And then at Northeastern, we have 4 different T stops. If you're not familiar with the Boston Public Transit System, we have the MBTA. So basically the T gets you to any part of the city, and students at Northeastern can take advantage of that. Just in terms of a cool thing that students at Northeastern also enjoy doing in their free time, is going to the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. All Northeastern students get free access to the museum. We have Fenway Park, which is about a 15-minute walk away from campus. We have Newbury Street, Copley Square, the Prudential Center, all within about a 10-minute walk. Boston was recently ranked one of the most walkable cities. So basically what I'm saying is if you put a pair of sneakers on, you can pretty much get around the city. But I do want to make sure to spend a little bit of time on admissions and financial aid. Claire, at this point, if you have to go, by all means, feel free to quietly exit. I think I can probably take it from here, admissions and financial aid. Jenna,
I have a question, or someone had a question for Claire.
yeah.
What made you choose Northeastern compared to other colleges?
Great question.
Yeah, actually, Greg, take it away. I'll wrap up with that. I love that as a closing.
I was going to
question.
wait for that at the end, and then when I heard you were leaving, I was like,
No worries.
No, that's completely fine.
It's
I
a
love
good
talking
end
admissions
note.
and financial aid, so take it away, Greg.
But I do, before you go into that, I do have a question just like myself for Boston. So there are 30 schools in Boston. So what do you think, if someone was looking at, I don't want to say the other rival schools or the other overlapping schools, but what do you think stands out about Northeastern for all the 30 schools in Boston?
Yeah. So we like to call them our peer institutions, right? That's like the nice way of putting it, our peer institutions. So yeah, I mean, there's no hiding. There's a lot of great schools in and around Boston that have great education, curriculums, and great platforms. To me, there's a couple different things that differentiate for Northeastern. Again, the big thing being co-op, giving students that 4 to 6 month opportunity to go out and work in their field of interest, to give them that introduction, just a taste of what it's like to work a 40, 50, maybe even 60-hour work week, to figure out if that's what they want to do. Our co-op program is so well established I think, again, that's something that really differentiates us. And then our campus. So you have schools in Boston that range anywhere from 2,000 students all the way up to, I'd probably say 20 or 25 is the max. So we're kind of at the upper end with 18,000 students. But the fact that we have a campus that has access to the city, but has dedicated green spaces like the Centennial Common, and just a number of other spaces around campus where it feels like even though you're in the city, you're part of a true campus environment. Claire, I'll let you add because I'm sure you have other things that you've seen.
No, you really hit the nail on the head. I always say it's the two C's, co-op and campus for me, that were the big draws. I can't stress how important it is to be, in the middle of Boston and to have that city vibe, but to also be able to put out a picnic blanket and to lay out in the sun when there's a nice day. So having that campus is a huge differentiator as well.
Great.
Are we good? Awesome. So in terms of admissions and financial aid at Northeastern, as an undergraduate admissions office, we take a holistic approach to reviewing applications. So what does this mean? It means that we're going to look at your essay, we're going to look at your activity list, we're going to look at your teacher recommendations, and we're really going to try to build a full picture of who you are as both a student and as well as a person. Because ultimately we want really positive leaders to be joining the Northeastern University community. So that gives you just a little bit of insight into how we evaluate applications. I made some separate slides for a presentation I'm giving tomorrow about navigating the college application process in the midst of COVID-19. And one of the things that they asked me to harp on is just going test optional. So Northeastern is doing a trial year of moving test optional because we know there's a number of obstacles in the way for students to get to testing, and we just want to see how it's going to affect our admissions process. So I listed just some of the schools that are moving test optional this next year. So obviously we're up there, but a number of other really great universities around the country. My recommendation is if you feel as though your SAT or ACT score is a positive representation of who you are as a student, then submit your test scores, right? Because it's not going to hurt your application. It's only going to help it. If you don't feel like your scores are a positive representation, then don't submit them. You're not going to be docked any points. Your application isn't going to be viewed any differently if you don't submit the scores. Here's another piece of recommendation that I'll give is when considering submitting scores, don't look at your scores in the lens of how you did in comparison to maybe your friend group. Look at the average scores for the school that you're applying from the last 4 or 5 years, right? So for Northeastern, our average SAT score was between a 1410 and 1470. That was a middle 50%. And then for ACT, it was between a 32 and a 33. So if you don't fall in that area, it's probably not going to be beneficial for you to submit your scores. Try to prove your application in other ways.
Will the scores have an impact on merit aid?
Yeah, so some merit scholarships will still look at SAT or ACT scores. Obviously not all of them. We have a number of different scholarships, but some will.
Okay.
So this slide covers the cost of attendance. As you can see, the tuition, room and board fees, and this is actually a really good segue to just merit-based scholarships. So there's a ton more that are listed on the Northeastern undergraduate website. The thing that I always like to focus on with merit-based scholarships is the fact that students don't have to submit any additional documents, essays, recommendation letters, or anything. We take it upon ourselves as an admissions office to evaluate your application and to slate students into different merit-based scholarship opportunities where we think they're fit. So there's no additional work that you have to do on your end. Applying to college is already time-consuming and challenging enough. We take that upon ourselves. For financial aid, we have what we call the Northeastern Promise. I think this one's really important, so I read it right off the screen. Northeastern will meet full demonstrated need based on the CSS profile and FAFSA forms for eligible students. And Northeastern gave out a record $296.2 million in financial aid a record for the university this past year. So we're looking to support students, prospective students, both academically, socially, as well as financially. For admission decisions, you can see the different deadlines that we have listed up there. The thing that I want to focus on is early decision 1 and early decision 2. I would say as an admissions officer, it's the two types of applications that I get the most questions about. For ED1 and ED2, they are both binding applications. What does that mean? If you get accepted when applying ED1 or ED2, you will be required to withdraw your applications from all the other schools that you apply to. I say that like it's kind of a negative thing. In reality, it should be really exciting. You got accepted to your top choice college or university. Just make sure that if you're applying ED1 or ED2, that it's the right academic, social, and financial fit. You should be able to check off all those different buckets and say it's the top choice for all those three to apply either ED1 or ED2. For admissions decision, we already covered NU in the NUN program, which is really the one that kind of sticks out here. If you do have additional questions about like the terms on this slide, you can visit the undergraduate admissions page, and they give just a little bit more lengthy explanation. So I wanted to include this slide as well. And again, for students that are at High Tech High School, you'll see part of this presentation tomorrow. But explaining how COVID-19 has affected you in your application. So the Common App has decided to give students 250 words to describe how COVID-19 has affected them. But a lot of people are unsure how to use those 250 words, right? Thinking forward, thinking to that application. So I found this blog by Spark Admissions. I usually don't like to promote any kind of like outside source just because I don't want to think there's any affiliation, but I thought this one was really useful. So I'd encourage reading that article if you would like, but here are just some different things that they promoted. So in terms of writing about different topics, definitely write if there's been an illness in your family, if there's been economic harm to your family, if COVID-19 has changed your educational path. And maybe you can write about the positive impact you've made on your community. It recommended not writing about what has happened to your school in general, or writing about missed opportunities, right? Because everyone's had missed opportunities, everyone's had school closures and things happened. It's not that we don't sympathize with you, it's not that we don't empathize with you, it's the fact that your application should be very specific to you as a student. If we erased your name at the top, we should still be able to say, okay, this is so-and-so's application just based off the information they submitted. You don't want to give generalized explanations and take up space from admission officers that are reading a lot of applications. And the one thing I'll actually add to that in terms of college essays, I usually don't like to give students too much direction when talking about what they should or should not write about. I would probably right now steer students away from writing about COVID-19. And here's why. We're anticipating just an onslaught of essays about COVID-19. And we're thinking that a lot of them are going to have a very similar kind of story, a very similar path, right? Every student's been affected differently. And again, it's not that we don't sympathize or empathize with you. It's the fact that you have that 250 word section on the Common App designated for you to talk about. Use the college essay to talk about something else that's personal, that you're passionate about, and something that you feel will be a positive representation of you as a student. So you don't have to take that by any means. If you want to write about COVID-19, if you think you have a really unique situation or you've done something different that you want to expand on beyond the 250 words, by all means do that. Just a little piece of recommendation that we're giving at this point. So this is our final slide, which is exciting because we're right at 7 o'clock, actually a little bit over. And then we'll answer a couple of questions and get everyone out of here. But really, for me, as someone that's spent over a half a decade in educational admissions, I appreciate the fact that Northeastern talks about things, business terms, like the ROI, right? The return on your investment. And to me, the way that Northeastern proves that it's a good return on their investment is that 54% of graduates are receiving a job offer from a co-op employer, which means a program that Northeastern has in place is directly leading to a Northeastern student getting a full-time work experience after graduation. And there's another statistic, I don't know the exact number because it seems to continue to change a little bit, but I want to say it's around 68% of students actually receive a job offer, but there's a 14% gap of students accepting the job offer because they actually have a better offer from another employer that they want to pursue. So students are just really set up through co-op. And then also the fact that we have the #3 ranked career services based on the Princeton review. Finally, that 97% of our students are employed in their field of study or in graduate school within 9 months of graduation. This is kind of like the ending statistic I always double highlight. And then I underline the fact that it says employed in field of study, right? It's not just a random job that a student's getting after graduation. It's something that they've put blood, sweat, and tears into, and they're building on a career in a real professional path. Claire, I think there's a good opportunity to send that wrap-up question to you, just about why you chose Northeastern versus other schools.
Yeah, so why Northeastern? I think there are so many reasons why Northeastern, but I realized those after already being a student here. Why I came to Northeastern was because I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I knew that I needed options. So seeing a school that had over 200 major options, different colleges, so I could specialize in different fields and switch between them if I needed to, was really comforting. And then just to highlight that campus and residential community was also something I was really looking for, especially coming from overseas. Having that home away from home was really important. So if you're thinking you know exactly what you want to study, that's great. But if you're thinking I might need to switch or pivot halfway through, Northeastern is a great place to figure that out and to have those steps along the way because you'll have that support.
Great, that was beautiful. All right, we have a minute left. I'm going to play a fun game. Greg, I have 5 questions, and they're all yes or no. So I'm going to hold you to answering yes or no.
All right, I'm nervous.
Number 1, does Northeastern recalculate GPA?
Yes.
Does Northeastern track demonstrated interest?
No.
This is good. Are there American Sign Language classes available?
Yes.
What are subject tests required? SAT subject tests?
No. And again, we're test optional, but even before that, no.
And then if you apply ED1, will you still be considered for merit aid scholarships?
Yes.
Whew, that was
Wow.
good.
My heart's racing.
You passed. I got 5 questions in there. So sorry, I think the other ones are a little specific, but do you give your acceptance rate for nursing? That's a good one.
So usually we don't give specific admit rates for the different undergraduate colleges. What I can say is the overall admit rate for the university was 18% for the fall of 2019. Because of COVID-19, because of some different enrollment strategies, we haven't released our admit rate for this upcoming fall.
Okay.
But we are expecting it'll probably be a little bit higher than 18%.
Okay. Awesome. That was good. We got a lot of answers in. Thank you, Claire. That was really a great contribution to be on today. And thank you, Greg. And I will keep you on your feet in New Jersey and
yeah, please do.
Get us some good Italian food because we have that here too.
Yeah, my hope is, that things will cool down a little bit for the fall and that we'll be able to travel down to New Jersey and I'll be able to meet a lot of you students in person and field your questions there.
Yeah, that's the hope for us too. Thank you so much for joining us, and everyone have a good night.
Thanks, Jenna.
Bye.